Hello, everyone. This is Rob, and this is actually not a figure study. I'm doing something a little bit different today. So, Hunt for the Decepticon Soundwave did a video on him a little while ago. I still think he's a fantastic figure. He's very cool. I love his design. But he is very difficult to come by. It is possible you can get like that 2-pack with Barricade that's available right now, and you get the... I don't think there's any real difference between this Takara version and the Hasbro release. Oh, did we even get a Hasbro release? I don't know. Regardless, Hunt for the Decepticon Soundwave is kind of tough to find. Unless you get that 2-pack, and that 2-pack is, as I understand it, in limited quantities. But there is a knockoff Hunt for the Decepticon Soundwave. And I'm going to have the link down there. I actually... I'm getting ahead of myself. The reason I bring that up is because one of these two is the official Soundwave, and one of them is actually a knockoff. And I will include the link down below to, if you're interested in trying to get the knockoff for yourself. But I thought this would be interesting because I've seen some videos that talk about this Soundwave knockoff, but I haven't seen any that do any kind of like direct comparison. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to actually do a one-to-one comparison between the official Takara Hunt for the Decepticon Soundwave and the knockoff Hunt for the Decepticon Soundwave. Now, I'm assuming you can't really guess at a glance which one is which. So I will spoil it for you. If you, I'll give you a couple minutes or a couple seconds to guess. You can pause the video if you want to guess. Take your time. Okay. So, this is the official Hasbro Soundwave. This one is the knockoff. Surprise! The differences, the most immediate differences that you can kind of see is that the plastic, and it shows up best under these lights, but you can see the plastic on the knockoff is slightly darker than the plastic on the official version. It's a little strange, but it's a very slight difference. Another difference that I have noticed is that the shading on the windows is very slightly, almost imperceptible, except when you've got this lighting and this camera going. The windows are very slightly lighter on the knockoff. So yeah. And let's see if we turn them both around here. You can see that, like, I'll get to that. Like, the overall colors are pretty close. And the actual, like, design and, like, the transformation, everything like that, exactly the same. He's still got the, fix that. He's still got the superior license plates going there. Now, the knockoff does actually come with his own laser beak and his own Gould figure. This silly little thing. Now, I hate these. Whenever I get a Human Alliance figure, these just go in a bin because these are just, eh. So forget that guy. But I mean, just for those who might, hang on, adjust the light here. Just for those who might be curious, he's decent for what he is. I mean, the Human Alliance human characters have always been kind of cruddy. Like, the actual articulation is nice and all that, but, he's, as far as I can tell, he's not much different than the other guy, than the official one, and I don't care enough to dig the official one out of storage to take a look. But, yeah, So you get this dinky little thing. Done with him. Right, so getting back to the sound waves. There we go. Now we'll take a look at Laserbeak. I will admit the one advantage that the one distinct advantage that the knockoff has, other than being easier to find over the Hasbro version, is it is much easier to get Laserbeak on and off his hand. Hang on a sec. Gonna do this off camera. Just because it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. Right. Oh, stop getting ahead of me, figure. I'm going to talk about that in a second. All right. So, official Laserbeak and knockoff Laserbeak. Again, the only real noticeable difference is the color. The red on knockoff Laserbeak is a little bit darker. The gray is a little bit darker. At first I thought maybe the eyes were kind of messed up, but then I realized the eyes on the official one are just as messed up, so there's no real difference there. The plastic on, and this is why it's easier to actually get the knockoff Laserbeak onto Soundwave. The plastic here is just a little bit more flexible than the plastic on the official Laserbeak. So these little hooks that attach to Soundwave's hand so that he can perch there clip on much easier. They still hold really well, but there's just a little bit more give in the plastic, which makes it easier to hook him on, which it's actually kind of nice. I might actually end up using knockoff Laserbeak with official Soundwave. Yeah, they still knockoff Laserbeak still transforms into the sort of cannon thing. And there goes that missile. It's okay. So yeah, he still transforms, still pretty much the same deal. The missile, other than being ridiculously sensitive, actually doesn't sit in very well. Fortunately, it landed right behind my chair. It kind of, it goes in, but it kind of, you can just, with very little force, you can just kind of pull it right out. Just, boop. Yeah. So, kind of annoying. I mean, when it's tucked in here, it's okay because the missile tucks inside of his neck there and there's nowhere for it to go, but it's a little bit of a pain if you're, transforming him. But yeah, the two, there's not too much difference. Keep them on camera. There's not too much difference between the two Laserbeaks. Yeah. Now, for the other stuff. Okay. Well, like I said, overall, color-wise, detail-wise, you can see that the knockoff and the official figure are pretty close in terms of, detail and... I said I will get to you. In terms of detail and coloring and all that. Again, transformation's exactly the same. Now, one thing that it's difficult to show just because of my setup here, so forgive me for not really showing it off that well, but the feet of the knockoff are slightly Jeez. I keep telling you I'll get to that. So the feet of the knockoff, specifically the toes, are a little bit off. I mean, they still work. They still balance, but Takara Soundwave, his toes are a little bit more flush with the ground, which means this outer toe, at least one of these outer toes, tends to be on the ground and make him a little bit more stable. Knockoff Soundwave, for whatever reason, his toes don't splay out quite as far in the front as they do on the Takara one, which means there's about like a tiny, it's tiny, but it is noticeable. Hang on, let me see if I can... Oh, I'm ruining the magic. Okay. It's kind of difficult to tell, but there's like, you know, Takara Soundwave, his toes on the ground. Knockoff Soundwave, if I turn him so you can kind of see the light here, his toe is actually very slightly off the ground. And see if I can find a good thing to... We'll use Laserbeak's wing. You can see, just kind of passes right under that because it's not on the ground, and both of his toes have that issue. And bring this back. Pardon me while I fix. So yeah, because his toes are slightly off, he does stand a tiny bit. The knockoff stands a little bit taller than its car version, but also it does affect his stability slightly. The real issue that I have with this knockoff is he is comparatively really floppy. Like, official Soundwave, you know, he can do poses, he can bend things, he can do... I showed it in the previous video, but like, he can totally do a one-legged stand. So he's quite flexible and pretty stable. This guy, he looks cool. He can do like the base stuff for the most part, but then things are a little... Yeah, I'm wondering if this will actually... Like, it may actually work. Maybe. Perhaps if I can just kind of get it set up just right. Maybe. Okay. So with a lot of finagling, he can still do that, but he is very floppy, especially in the legs. Like, these are pretty loose. These are... His ankles here are really loose. His toes are a little bit loose, but because of the physics involved, since all this pressure is pushing this just sort of back up into place, that's not really a problem. But like, this part is pretty loose. It's mostly these hips, though. Like, especially as you saw, like, this one is super, super loose. Not like, well, maybe not Generations Rhinox loose, but pretty loose. There's also, like, you can see there's some stress marks on him. Some of the paint was a little sloppily applied. And I mean, you know, I have a couple of paint issues with the official version as well, but these are a bit more on the extreme side. And yeah, he's, you know, he is still cool. It's just weird that, like, certain elements on him are a lot stiffer than the Takara version, like elements that probably shouldn't be. Specifically, like his, make sure I have him kind of back and in frame here. He can just stay there. So yeah, certain elements of him are really loose, and that's kind of annoying, and certain elements are really tight, and that's kind of annoying. Like his feet, when transforming him out of vehicle mode, I had a really tough time separating the back section of the car to make his legs. For whatever reason, they pegged together really tight, and I was kind of worried I was going to pop a leg off. I didn't, fortunately, but very, very tight. You know, on him, 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 it's snug, but not. It's snug, but it's not enough that I'm worried that things are going to start popping off. And again, with the knockoff, his hips are just so loose. He also has a little bit of trouble with holding Laserbeak at a slight angle. Like with him, you can crook the elbow slightly and get like a better angle on Laserbeak. Him, not so much because his elbows are a little bit loose. The transformation joints on him are also kind of loose, specifically up in the shoulders here. Like these are pretty wobbly. These are decent because they're slightly ratcheted, but they are kind of wobbly. And this is like kind of a little loose, not too terrible though. This thing is very, very quite loose. Oh, but you know, it's not. It's. He's loose, but he's not like a terrible loss kind of loose. It's one of those deals where it's like the knockoff. If you can't find official Soundwave anywhere for, you know, a price that's not absolutely ludicrous, which I do still recommend if you can get the, and I'll also include a link down below for the combination pack with Barricade, because I still think that's a great set and it's totally worth the money in my opinion. But you know, if you just want Soundwave and you don't want to pay like the ridiculous sums of money that he's going for on eBay and Amazon and all that, the knockoff is a decent answer to that. He's definitely not perfect though. I mean, you know, from just a straightforward standpoint, like he doesn't, upon first glance and even upon closer inspection, he looks almost exactly the same as the official version. It's just like the only way you're really going to know the difference is if you're doing side-by-side comparisons. But he is loose. I mean, in vehicle mode, the only... Well, hang on, let me show you. Right, so, vehicle mode. Now, I decided to keep official Soundwave in robot mode because there's, you know, very little that can be compared between the two modes that hasn't already been compared in robot mode, like the slightly darker plastic, the slightly lighter clear plastic. But the issues that I have with vehicle mode is that he's still really floppy. Like, you lift up his gull wing doors and they will not stay up. I actually had an issue with this one when I was trying to open it. The hinge joint that kind of slides out as you pull up. Yep, that's exactly what happened last time. There's this joint in here that pulls out when you go to open the doors, and that is tight, but the but the actual place where the door is connected to that joint is not super tight, so the door just kind of pops out unless you open it like super slowly and carefully. But at least this one stays up. Still a little floppy though. Oh, now I'm just noticing. I don't know if this is just because of me fiddling with it or because it came like this, but I'm just noticing the paint scratches up there. That's a shame. Anyway, the issue that I have with this is mostly in the back, where it's the looseness is like all this stuff connects pretty well. These panels here that kind of swing around the outside, these are actually pretty loose, but once they clip in, they're fine. But this spot right here does not like to stay pegged in very well on mine. And also this is really, really loose. I mean, you can kind of put it back in and it's okay. But then this pops out, and then trying to get it back down is... come on. Come on. yeah. So there are issues. See, it goes down like that, okay, but then just doesn't. Right. Anyway. Oh, geez, and now I'm kind of noticing that there's a very slight, but it's there, color difference between the doors and the top of the car. Anyway. Just going to put him there. Now, as I was saying, the Takara Soundwave, kind of difficult to come by if you don't get that 2-pack, which, again, I do suggest you get, and it's going to be down there. But if you just want him individually, I'm pretty, at least last I checked, he's like really kind of absurdly expensive, considering he originally released at like a 30, like the Human Alliance figures originally released at like a $30 or $40 price point, and now people are trying to ask hundreds of dollars for just this one figure. Just kind of ridiculous. And, if you're, for whatever reason, really against the idea of getting the 2-pack with Barricade, and also, of course, against the idea of spending, $150, $200, $250 on a figure that, as much as I love him, is not a, this is not $100 figure. Yeah, it's... There. So yeah, he's really cool, but I don't think he's $150, $200 cool. So if you're super against paying a lot for him, if you're super against getting him in a double pack, but you do still really want him, and I do recommend him because he's really cool, then I do think that the knockoff here it's a nice answer to those who may want this figure a lot without having to pay a ridiculous amount of money. I'm not entirely convinced that the floppiness issues that I have with this guy make him worth the price, even the reduced price of the knockoff, because I mean, knockoff price is around $40, $50, and then you got to factor in shipping from China, which then bumps it up another $20. Don't really know if I consider this worth it, honestly. I mean, I guess if you really have to have him, then sure, absolutely, he's a much cheaper alternative. But other than that, it's kind of he's okay, but he's just so loose, and it makes posing kind of difficult. And because I mean, he's kind of he's surprisingly stable for such a spindly, oddly proportioned dude, but he does have when his legs are loose like that, it becomes a much bigger problem. Not enough, I think, to make it like avoid at all costs kind of bad, but not great. Could be better. But ultimately, it's not my decision to make. It's your decision to make, because it's your money. It's your interest in the Dark of the Moon Soundwave or disinterest. It's entirely up to you. I do think that if you have to have them and and you're on a little bit more of a budget, then this is a decent way to kind of get around that. But if you are able to spend a little bit more, then I think honestly you're better off getting the 2-pack with Barricade, because the official Soundwave is just sturdier. Yeah, that's that's all I got. I'm hoping that this comparison is at least a little helpful to some of you. If so, please feel free to let me know. I love to know that this is actually helping somebody, whether you get it or not. It's great to it's great to know that this has been informative. So, thank you everybody for watching, and don't worry, we're going to be getting back to a regular figure study and all that stuff. Actually, very soon. Should be a figure study video going up right after this. So, again, thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any combination of those three as per usual. Again, you know, I'm not gonna be mad if you don't do any of them because I know how it is. And I will catch you next time. Probably not with Soundwave in tow. And definitely not with Gould. Stupid Gould. Yeah. Anyway, catch you next time.